Hi guys, I thought we could try and recreate our friend Cyclops, the most infamous mutant in recent years, especially since he pretty much became a mutant terrorist starting around the time of Avengers versus X-Men, I suppose. I tried to recreate the look of the young Cyclops from new X-Men, and it pretty much was a failure, as you can see. Essentially, the pattern on the costume is pretty hard to reproduce, and even though the paneled suit can sort of try to give that illusion, it doesn't really work. So let's go back to the classic with the classic X-Men, the classic Cyclops looks from all the way back in X-Men #1. So again, this is pretty much a look you can achieve right at character creation. The exception being the gloves, which are the Doctor Fate gloves. But I'm pretty sure you can use some other gloves in the meantime until you get the Doctor Fate gloves. Other than that, pretty much everything else comes straight from character creation. The visors, the slimline suit, the new Genesis pants, the clean cuff boots. All that comes from character creation. Again, depending on how you interpret the early version of the costume, either you see it as yellow and black, or as it was colored in the comic. You could see it, I guess, as dark blue very easily. So either would probably work for a Cyclops character. And in later years, he pretty much got. In later years, his suit got upgraded. But pretty much the only upgrade they did was actually just to remove the yellow on the chest. And for the longest time, this pretty much was Cyclops. That's pretty much the Cyclops I was familiar with when I really started reading the X-Men. I had seen them in as guest appearance a few times, but when I started reading X-Men, that pretty much was Cyclops at the time. And of course, we could try. I tried to recreate the Jim Lee Cyclops, and again failed miserably. Mainly because the costume is asymmetrical, so there's no real chess piece that actually sells the Jim Lee Cyclops. Ironically. So for the head, yeah, you can get pretty close enough, but essentially what's really lacking is the chest piece. There's no single chest piece that actually works with that style. I guess the paneled chest that you can get in tier two duos could sort of kind of work, but I don't, not really. Like essentially, Cyclops has those asymmetrical straps on his chest, and there's no real way to reproduce that. So let's try another version. This is more or less as close to the Whedon version we can get, or the look was also tweaked a bit later in what was it called, Astonishing X-Men or something. Anyways, again, there was no real way to really reproduce the pattern on the shirt. There was also a version by Alex Ross. We could try maybe a red version. There was a version by Alex Ross that pretty much was kind of sort of like this, maybe with different gloves. Oh, let's go with those. There was a version that Alex Ross designed that kind of sort of was like this, but the pattern on the pattern would actually make an X as opposed to a M. M kind of would work for mutant, I suppose. So, but again, not quite there, but it's close enough, I guess. The best look we can try reproduce is probably the what was pretty much the latest look that the terrorist version of Cyclops actually was wearing in the latest comic leading up to Secret Wars. So that's pretty much as close as you can get, I suppose. Obviously, you cannot get the weird X on the mask that they gave him. But the Cyclops the visor pretty much is as a classic Cyclops item. It pretty much screams a Cyclops, and the pattern again, although it's not quite exact, it's close enough to the latest incarnation of the character that it pretty much sells the idea. The Bane Belt would probably work better, be even closer to the comic. Ironically, I just realized that I don't have the Bane Belt with this character, which kind of surprises me since I did play the Bane mission way too often. I guess I wasn't lucky on the drop and I never bothered to purchase it for this character from the broker. It doesn't really matter, it's not a big deal. So ironically, recreating Cyclops was much more difficult than I thought for some of his incarnations. And there's no way I could recreate the Cyclops, like the Phoenix version of Cyclops that you saw in Avengers versus X-Men. And I suppose that's pretty much it. So for the latest version, you can get pretty close as you can see, and you can pretty be spot on with the original version of the costume. Of course, you to mimic the laser beam, you pretty much would have to use the iconic heat vision. Although some powers can sort of kind of work if you want to cheat them. But I guess the biggest problem would be to mimic the Cyclops powers. I guess you would have to go gadget and take heat vision, which I don't have with this character. So I guess that's pretty much it, guys. So hopefully I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.